I've had a constant liaison with them that spans nearly 50 years. I know of their existence, I know who they are, and all I need is for them to come in, turn the lights on, let them know we're here, and let them know they're there, and then off they go, and I've got the elephant in the room, and that's now all I need.
Welcome everyone to UFO Unlimited. I'm your host, Scott Russell. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. We've got a great guest coming up, Mr. Tony Topping. He's coming from the UK and he's going to blow you away. How about that rhyme? Tony, what's going on, brother? Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's nice to have you, me mate. Thank you very much. Nice to be on your show. Well, what's going on? A lot's going on behind the scenes, I think, with the UFO phenomena. I'm just writing my book at the moment, which is called I, Alien, Memoirs of a UFO Spy. It's written as fiction, but the events in it are not fiction. I've had to do it that way just to protect me, really, I suppose. So I've been through one hell of a roller coaster ride with it. The roller coaster ride is still ongoing. Some of it I can't talk about, and some of it is really getting on my nerves at the moment, with me being, how can I put it, when some of us are contact experiencers and we see on the internet what is being written and what people are saying compared to what it's like liaising with those behind the UFOs, it's another world, Scott. It's another world. I haven't made millions from my UFO appearances. I do appear on TV and radio in the UK. I haven't made money. It's been quite a hair-raising roller coaster, dangerous work sometimes as well. And anything can happen in the next half hour, as we say, to coin the phrase of Stingray, the famous TV program here in the UK, so none of it's been easy. Anyway, fire away with any questions you've got. I wouldn't, if I was me interviewing me, Scott, I wouldn't know where to begin, but begin we must, we really must. Fire away.
That's always the hardest part is how do you begin the interview? You don't want to like bore everyone too much with all the background, so I try to hop right in and cover the background as we go.
Yes.
But if you could tell us about your first experience, whether it was UFOs or what, I think it was a paranormal experience, if I'm correct. So
yes, the thing is with it, Scott, is that just imagine this, and this sets the foundation for what we're going to get into, I think. But if you imagine it, I was a little lad aged 8, 9, 10 years of age, and I'm walking down the street with a pram laden with scrap. It's Britain in the 1980s. My parents are broke. I'm 10 years of age, walking down the street with a pram full of scrap from an iron, a car battery, this, that, and the other. And I'm heading to a scrapyard because we lived in poor accommodation. We had an outside toilet. There was no bath. There was no heating in this house. I was abused regularly, sexually abused. It was all happening. Little did I know that I would get involved with those behind the UFOs. Oh my, and how we got there is amazing, and how it's all ongoing is equally amazing. And I think, Scott, just to deviate from that, what we're being told in the media and what is going on are two entirely different things, and it really pisses me off when I'm a contact experiencer on the front lines of all this to see people coming out with a load of shit, basically, and it really does get on my nerves. These include former military witnesses. I'm going to come to that. Something's recently happened that is not correct as far as I'm concerned, but there it is, paraded around in the form of Dr. Stephen Greer and his military witness. These military witnesses are really, really just getting on my nerves slightly with what they're not telling people. But on saying that, if I was to look at myself, Scott, am I a hypocrite? Because there's some of the stuff that I can't talk about. I just can't talk about it. That's really for my own safety. There's some of it you just cannot talk about in the public domain. And some of it is so astounding, what I've seen, that it's not even written anywhere in the esoteric teachings of its existence. Nowhere on earth is it written about the existence of let us say, parallel universes or that kind of thing and who they are. Nothing written. I will get into that. But at age 2, that was my first paranormal experience. I would actually describe it as an experience that involved, it was very Hindu, actually, and it involved elephant gods. It was just, I can't get my head around it, but we're in this poor housing accommodation. These things walk through the wall, kind of like an ancient kind of Hindu kind of wall art thing. It goes bounding through the wall. I'm crying my eyes out because I don't know what the hell I've seen. at that time as well, I'm a little lad, I bite my lip, I'm bleeding everywhere, my dad's going nuts, I'm trying to comprehend what I've seen, and that image has been consistent through my 50 years experiences of being reminded about it. The cosmic elephants, the cosmic kind of Lord Ganesha, the supreme cosmic being. Case in point, and we'll get into it later, Scott, that supreme cosmic being is very real and very present, and it probably saved my life when I was nearly abducted last year, and that was not pleasant. And once again, the abduction process, what the internet's saying about it, and what you see as a witness, two entirely different things altogether. So you've got this kind of awkward situation of what we're being told online, what these big name players are telling us, and what's going on as a contact experience. And yes, Scott, you will be labelled a lunatic. I will be labelled a lunatic. And yes, Scott, I have no doubt, you know, all the accusations of me being a liar, blah, blah. And I really don't give a shit about that after what I've been through. But I will tell you this, Scott, my friend, and this is true. I've had a constant liaison with them that spans nearly 50 years. I know of their existence. I know who they are. And all I need is for them to come in, turn the lights on, let them know we're here, and let them know they're there, and then off they go, and I've got the elephant in the room, and that's now all I need. And that might happen, you see. So I don't fake my footage. My footage has been analysed, and I've done some beautiful digital art as well regarding my experiences. Digital art is centres around my alien abduction attempted experience and intervention. And from that point, whatever it is that tried to prevent that has been reflected, well, did prevent it, has been reflected in my art. And if you can imagine, Scott, and we will get into it later, because I know we're starting the narrative at age 2, but I'll just say, when you've got something as powerful as that, that's like all Star Trek, a higher dimensional being manifesting in your living room, that's going to radiate harmonics and signals here, there, and everywhere into parallel worlds. So as a contact experiencer, you are going to be on the receiving end. You are going to be on a recoil of all types of paranormal activity. So therefore, you could call me a modern Whitley Strieber. I don't know. You could call me somebody who's had an exceptional human experiences, to coin the phrase by Rhea H. White. If your viewers look up Rhea H. White, they'll see something called exceptional human experiences, which is what I am. I'm an EHE, and it began at age 2. And it's followed me all through my life. But the turbulent years, Scott, was when I was a young child being abused, living in squalor, mistaken for a gypsy and beaten up because I looked like what we would call in the UK travellers. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them as well. I don't have a problem with them. Let's get this right. But there's kind of like a stigma. There was a stigma attached to me looking scruffy, coming from a poor house. I used to get beaten up, you know, and all this kind of thing. It was horrendous. My school life was horrendous. And yet I was going to participate in an active liaison with the UFO phenomena, the like of which I have never, the world has probably never seen behind the scenes. And it really has gone on. And that brings all kinds of issues up as well. So that's the foundation, I think, Scott, of where we start. And perhaps you can now navigate me now and walk me through where you'd like me to go for your viewers. Yeah. After all that.
I know, that's great. That's great. I feel the same way. I'm pissed off that the truth is not out.
No.
I'm an experiencer as well. I've seen a lot of UFOs. I've never seen any, you know, aliens that I know of. I've had some ghost and paranormal things happen, which, you know, I'm pretty convinced of. But when you were 2, describe again, what did you see when you were 2?
Right. Okay. So yeah. So what I saw when I was 2 was like on some of the Hindu temples in India, they've got something known as the Wheel of Time, which is like this kind of magnificent kind of carving in the temples. It's easier for your viewers to use that as a reference and imagine that kind of like as a vision being propelled by what appeared to be, how can I put it, elephants making one hell of a sound. They were trumpeting through the wall. Trumpets is a key thing. As an exceptional human experience, Scott, only last week or the week before, I was, you see, how can I put this? I'm a signal processor. So I process paranormal signals. I'm actually a signal processor. To say I'm psychic is not correct. If you listen to the guys who were in the Russian psychic warfare program called the Unit of Special Abilities, Project Stargate, the American psychic warfare program, all of them would say that we are subconscious information signal processors. Perhaps Krishna, perhaps Jesus was of that kind of thing, yeah? So that means that you can be tuned in very really tuned in, and the ETs out there are very advanced beings, and they can be tuned in as well. And I am utterly convinced that the other day, I heard the earth signaling to the higher dimensions like a whale sound, like a trumpet sound, a great big whale sound. I could hear it. I've heard it on a couple of occasions, actually. And it's like the earth as a being is communicating to the wider universe that it is in trouble, which it is. If you see the lunatic behavior in Ukraine and Russia, that is not a coincidence at all. For example, it's got a Z, they've got Zs on the side of the vehicle. That is not a coincidence. If you look at the Nazis with the swastika, not a coincidence. But the thing is, what's puzzling is that the Russian and American paranormal warfare units actually know of these realities outside of us that are good and evil, but still the carnage appears to be running. And the other thing which we'll get into, Scott, as well, is alien abductions being fake. That's another thing that gets me very angry, but we'll get to that. So you've got this kind of, I've got this kind of Hindu image when I'm age 2. They're thundering through the door. My father's trying to cope with it all. I'm trying to cope with it all at age 2. And I just, to this day, the ETs still reference that vision. If you come across an ET in real life, for example, a cursory look at TikTok, Scott, there's a lot of people out there who will say, the Arcturians are here to transcend us to a 5th dimension. You as light bringers, oh my God, you know, the light bringer bit, the light worker bit, oh my days. Oh, as a professional in this field, if you're a light worker, you'll get hit, you'll get targeted. You'll get neurologically targeted. They think that somehow it's war, it's brutal, it's a psychic war, and they don't get that. And if you meet an Arcturian, which I had an experience of that, which I'll come to as well, Scott, I will never forget her. You're left mind blown by them because they're intelligent beings. They are out there and we are being lied to. And this is when we get into what I would describe as like an alien Cold War. Anyway, I'm talking a lot, and I've not quite got my narrative in place. So if you can come in, Scott, with any questions so far, you know, I'm going through you know, how it all began was incredible, really, and has been incredible, to be quite frank with you.
I'm interested in where you're going with this.
Okay.
Let's talk about alien abduction.
You want to go there? Okay, all right then. Yeah, we can go there. We can go there, but perhaps I think let's just go to the section in my narrative of 1999 when it all began for me. And the thing about this is that let me say this was just recently Dr. Stephen Greer, whose work I actually admire, has said that I'll briefly get into the alien abduction and then I'll get into it again as to what happened to me, but we'll go here now. Just recently, he's come out with a workshop, or it was recently at the weekend, where he's got a military witness who's come forward to say for $699 as well, you can participate in Dr. Greer's workshop. And there's an indication this military witness was involved in UFO recovery. And there was also an indication that he was abducted by fake aliens. And the alien abduction scenario is fake, yeah? And I am sick and tired of military witnesses covering us and telling us that this is not going on when it is precisely going on. And that's why they're covering us in the first place. So this guy who stepped forward and said, oh, well, you know, I was abducted by fake aliens. He bloody well knows that he wasn't abducted by fake aliens. They're covering us to cover up the reality of the abductions going on. And if you're nodding your head there, Scott, yes, you're right. So that's good that you're nodding your head, because right across the world, this phenomena of people being abducted by aliens is real, and it extends to an alien Cold War. You have got, we'll take, for example, the Nordics and the Arcturians. They are advanced beings. They are advanced civilizations. They don't do war. They don't do Ukraine v Russia. They don't act like Russia blowing places. But there is an element to it within the alien framework that could be classed as a Cold War. You could class it as like a alien NATO versus alien Russia. And one of the situations within that is the abduction of human beings. And not only that, Scott, as well, there's a distinct possibility that there was a guy called Robert Dean who did something called the Nato Assessment. And he stood up at a UFO conference, claims to be he was a staff sergeant at Supreme Headquarters, Allied Powers Europe. And NATO did an assessment because they thought that the Russians were coming in, and it wasn't Russians, it was UFOs. But one of the things Robert Dean said in the data about all this was aliens look like us and we look like them. They look like us and we look like them. And you could walk past one down the street and you would never know. And he's absolutely correct. He is absolutely correct. And bear that in mind when you go into the wider universe, that there are beings that don't look like little green men. They look like us. There's a possibility that the same species structure of looking like us, but from another world, could also face the scenario of abduction as well. Therefore, you're talking of a universal type phenomenon that is actually opposed by these advanced civilizations. And there's a lot of covering ass to tell you, Scott, that it's not going on from elements of our military, which is absolutely disgusting. And as if Eisenhower or MacArthur was around, that would not happen. Now, I can't go any further with that, actually. I'll describe what happened to me, but I can't really go any further to discuss that. It gets into classified areas that really, for safety's sake, I can't actually discuss because it's a very strange corruption. And the public are not being told the truth. The elements of the military are not even being told the truth. And that's where it stands at the moment, Scott, with the ETs and the abduction scenario that's going on. It certainly does.
Yeah, let me hop in there. I never bought the fact that our military or any military would fake a UFO abduction. What is the point of that? To trick people that there are aliens and they're bad? That never made any sense to me. So Dr. Greer is, by all means, he seems like, super intelligent guy. I think he's brought, some light to, the subject of, with the special access programs and stuff he talks about. But some of his witnesses, and it goes with a lot of people. I'm not going to name names, but either the witnesses are like, an unnamed or unsourced, that, they don't want to give up their names. So then you think, well, is it even real? But you're talking about something really, really big here. But before
the level of it being at the level of it, Scott, being a diplomatic incident among aliens.
wow.
For example, the Nordics, for example. Listen, I'm a contact experiencer. I know my stuff. I don't sit here saying, look at me, I'm an alien ambassador. I'm a man who was caught up in shit that he doesn't understand. And to be quite frank, I've had 50 years of it, Scott. I can safely say I'm actually out of my depth with it at the moment. I don't quite know what's going on, but I do know that the Nordics are real. These blonde, blue-eyed aliens, they are real. And if you have communication with them, they will tell you things that that not a lot of people know. And I think one of the things that was amazing was the fact that they mirror humanity very, very much so, and they have a command structure a bit like a military on Earth. So they've got a judiciary, they've got a defense command, they've got an exploration command, all this kind of thing. It's a precise command structure to them. And they are quite switched on. So you can imagine that carrying on there. What I'm saying to Dr. Greer is alien abductions are fake. Ask the Nordics, they'll tell you. They'll tell you the truth, as they have actually told the truth to abductees in Brazil. There's a guy in Brazil who was taken by them. The Nordics didn't harm him. In fact, the Nordics I could describe them as just being, what's the word I'm looking to, just very decent aliens. In fact, why the hell I can't have one sat here now with a selfie? It's that easy with them. The liaison with them is that easy at the moment. They will come into UK airspace with their craft quite routinely, a bit like a Boeing jet, because their technology is very different to ours and they're very real. And for nefarious, corrupt reasons, they don't want that data in the public domain, but they certainly want death and destruction in Ukraine with civilians. That's all to go for. Economies collapsing. That's fabulous. But anything like this, no. Not allowed in the public domain. I'm very lucky, actually, to speak like I do in Britain, like I do about all this. But the Nordics, as I say, they have a command structure, they have a judiciary, and that's the important thing. The judiciary with the Nordic ETs is very powerful, and it has commented on this abduction thing that's going on. So if all Dr. Greer needs to do is speak to the Nordics, and they will tell him. But of course, who am I, Scott? I'm nobody. My name's not in light. It's who the hell am I? Do you know what I'm saying? What would I know? But the elephant in the room with me, Scott, is I only need them to come in with the triangle craft, put the lights on, give us a light show and fly off again, and I've got an elephant in the room. And that's what could happen, you see. So the Nordics, we can get into that. And a lot of the listeners and viewers like me to talk about that as well. Now, perhaps we can get into that also, you know. I know the Norwegian TV channel, True TV, they went down the MK Ultra route. They wanted to know about my MK Ultra targeting, which actually happened in the 90s. I was hit by this most bizarre technology, awoken all hours, gunfire, all this kind of thing. It was quite horrendous. So contact experiences can be targeted by their own country's security services, and their own country's security services have not got a clue what they're dealing with out there in the big wide universe. Oh my, no they haven't, and that's it. Hence Lou Elizondo saying we do not know what they are. He should add to that, we do not know what they are and we don't understand them either, would be a better thing to say, because they are, in terms of perception and in terms of how their civilizations operate, they're advanced. And in some cases, they do not have money like we do. They don't operate economically like we do, you know. So there's a lot to learn as mankind ventures into the universe. And I'm ranting on, I'm on my soapbox, Scott. So please come in and give me something, you know, ask a question or whatever.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about the Nordics.
Nordics, of course, yeah.
Do they have a base here, maybe? Or,
yes, they do. Yes, they do. Oh yeah, absolutely they do. Yes, they do. And I would suggest that governments know of this. They do have bases, and they're advanced. And how can I put it? You know when they're about, and some crazy, wacky things have happened with them. I would only say this is that their information is very drip, drip, drip. They will not tell you the full picture, and in the course of interaction with you, they will say that for security reasons, as we Earth people say, we are not allowed to tell you this information. It's because they're doing an operation that is actually communicating with an Earth agency outside the rules of time that we would know. So therefore, in my book, I, Alien, Memoirs of a UFO Spy, I've got in it all my journals that was left on the shelf. I was going to put them in the bin because my mother died. I looked after her for a very long time. She had dementia. I was going through hell with it. And I put these journals, I just left them there, wondering what they were all about, because I was writing it all down with time and date, what was going on. Well, what was going on is that I was part of an operation that was governed outside the rules of time, communication with ET. For example, I called it, what it looked like, these journal entries, Scott, was it looked like that it was time and date. And what they are, it's actually a communication network. A communication network that we were dealing with, that it was a black operation, it looked like it. For example, the communication network that they were thinking about and they were moving with is, for example, a vehicle in the Andromeda galaxy equipped with a radio that can communicate with Earth in real time without any delay. That's the kind of operation that they were moving with. And I understand, as I understand it in my experiences, as I understand it, there was a lot of science involved, a lot of equations, a lot of work, but it ended up with a liaison taking place between humanity and these other ET civilizations across a type of internet that I called SCOVs, or Special Contact Operation Verisea. That's what I called it. Now, that escalated the publishing of my book, which is going to be published, but the writing of all that and the network provoked some very strange reactions from hidden quarters in the unacknowledged special access projects. It really did. So some liaison has gone on. I've learned more about this liaison across this SCOVs thing, But in 1999, as I say, it all began, and they kept coming near radio antennas, which they would because they're smart, and they're hinting. So they're continually hinting at communication via radio antennas, that they're coming near antennas. Anybody would think they were hostile, but that was not their intention. Their intention was to signal, you see. So their intention is more one of diplomacy rather than military. But you see, Scott, here we go again. We get into it now where we're being invaded by aliens, the security threat that they are. It's all about covering ass and not telling the truth at this stage of human history of what is going on. So I was filmed by unmarked helicopters, Scott. I had all sorts going on. I was stalked by some lunatics, I don't mind telling you, and God knows what they were doing, but they had this technology that they were using. And then it all really, I suppose, to cut a long story short with that, Scott, because I don't want to give it too much energy, it all began in 2014 with the Nordics. It literally just began with them. They just came in, and nowadays they're just with abandonment. They don't need anybody to give them permission. They will come in, they will say what they want to say, they will do what they want to do, and nobody's going to stop them. No government on this earth will stop them. No extraterrestrial classified liaison program with another ET group will stop them, because they are, such a group would be actually outnumbered. There is weight and strength in numbers with these beings. So we can get into all that, Scott, with the contact and the woman I met from who was an Actarian, who I'll never forget her, did some special art for her, all that kind of thing. You know, I've taught that much that I really, there's so much to communicate, Scott, that I just don't know where I am with it now, actually, to be quite frank. But with me, what you see is what you get. So, you know, that's it. I think we can safely start. I think the starting point is 2014, when the Nordics first revealed themselves. So we can get into that if you wish, yeah?
Yeah, you said earlier that the Nordics, you said the Nordics come in a triangle. Are they
Yes.
the ones that the ones that fly all the triangles, or maybe
No.
not all, but
No,
some
no,
of
no.
them?
No, the Arcturians have got triangles as well, but a different color. No, they the thing. It's a good question. Let me say, when I looked after my mother, she had dementia, and she had absolutely dreadful goings on. She had a very unpleasant medical condition, which for a son to deal with was absolutely heartbreaking. But I would not put her in a home. And I went through absolute hell with this. And unfortunately, we lost the battle against dementia. I had to move house, and I had to have a hernia operation all in the same year. And it's at that point, Scott, when these ETs would start cranking up their presence. I thought that I wouldn't get out of the hospital alive, for example, when they had to operate on me. But what happened was, at that time, I don't mind telling you, I moved to the lovely town of Southport, and I was a broken man. I'd lost my mother. At the height of my mother calling me throughout the night and the carers coming in, there was an incident that happened with one of these ETs. This ET was a female. It links back to an incident that happened to me in 1997, where I was asleep in bed. And in 1997, we'd moved house, and I remember being catapulted into this old house we used to live in. There was squalid conditions, Scott. There was no outside toilet. As I said, the place stunk. It was dreadful. And there I was in this dream in my mum and dad's bedroom, looking at the old dresser, and her back to me, her back was to me. She was tying back her hair, and she turned around, looked at me, and said in fluent English, "How do I look?" You know. Now, well, that's just loony. I mean, in English, who knew, eh? They have studied our languages. They know Sanskrit. They know English quite fluently. They're real. I'm sick of the bullshit, but they're real. So this lady astounded me with the way she looked, tied back her hair. That was in 97. She had a triangle face with green eyes. She looked very, very, how can I put it, Scott? She was strangely attractive. She just exuded this vibe, you know, and it shocked me. Moving on then to my mother and all the situation that was going on, and she appeared again, told me it was a number of years since she'd last seen me, and indicated to me that they were using bases in our ocean. But the fascinating thing about this, Scott, was the bases in our ocean, they come from a parallel universe that also has oceans, and they can use our universe oceans or their universe oceans. Water appears to be water, if you get my drift, no matter what universe you're in. This appears to be the thing. So they were using this as basis, and she was morally outraged as to what I was as to what I was putting up with, you know. So it moves to Southport. I've lost everything. I am a broken man, and I've had my hernia operation, and I'm wandering around, Scott, in a state of absolute exhaustion. To cut a long story short, there was an incident over the Marine Lake here in Southport when I was at the height of mental exhaustion, and I was just broken, and I'm sat on the bench near the Marine Lake. All of a sudden, 5 seconds, a pink triangle, so a triangle with 3 pink lights just appears in the sky for about 30 seconds. Bright white ball of light across the other side of the lake lifted me from my exhaustion. I've never been exhausted at that level since. And then, we'll cut a long story short, a few days later when I was asleep in this room, she literally, this lady, alien lady, literally appeared in front of me. And my God, what a darling of a woman. I mean, she looked human, but wasn't. So she had the bald head, the green skin, but it was the vibe, this kind of, if you could imagine a real hippie chick love vibe, but amplified, greatly amplified. And she indicated to me that she was from Arcturus. She indicated to me that she had heard they hear things, they get to know things. One point, Scott, in all this equation is they've never told me why they're here with me and why they're doing what they're doing. You'll note that. So I'm telling you about this lovely lady I've met. She's got a hippie vibe about her, but she's telling me fuck all, actually, about why they're here and why all this is going on. And that's the thing. There's secrecy around it. And with ET, they can be as secret as humans. And if you're a contact experiencer, it's what they don't tell you is equal to what they do tell you. Do you get my drift? So I will never forget her. And I did some special art called the Avatar of Arcturus to remember her. She told me they're more near the Bootes constellation rather than Arcturus for scientific reasons. And there was an indication that they like to go recreational vehicles. They have them like we have on Earth, and they like to go around the moons of certain planets in the Bootes constellation, certain moons. And then a few months later, she came back to visit again. The emerald green craft came over the rooftops here and flew on its way, very graceful, you know. So their presence, the Nordics we'll get into, but it's just that I will never forget her. And the fact is, Scott, we're being lied to that they're hostile. We're being lied to that they're warlike. That woman was far from warlike. She was all there, very sharp. She knew the score. What it is the fact of the matter is the United States government has taken a wrong turn since Roswell and got into bed with the wrong type of alien. And that's where the trouble lies. And then all you've got, Scott, is this covering of ass to tell us that they're a threat, that people are being subjected to fake alien abductions. It's an absolute disgraceful lie, and the American government and military should hang its head in shame for doing this, because we are in danger as a human civilization of destroying ourselves. And I tell you this, Scott, as well, when you liaise with these ETs and the UFOs and they look at the situations we're going through with conflict, their take on it is we will learn the hard way. There's no Ashtar command coming in to save us. There's no mighty leadership out there who are going to save humanity and transcend us into the 5th dimension. It does not work like that in real life at all. They have said quite clearly that if we're not careful, we will destroy ourselves and we'll learn the hard way from it as well. It's brutal. They're tough teachers. And that's what it's like in real life, Scott, to liaise with them. But that lady, that Arcturian lady, I will never forget her. Don't even know her name, but it was just something that happened to me that I will never forget, mate.
Yeah, I think I saw a picture of her on your website, I believe.
That's right.
That's right. Leave that website in the description for everyone to check out. Description, link of the video. So the Nordics are here, and
yes,
they seem to be at least maybe neutral or observing.
Yes.
They don't really know why they're here. What about grays? Are grays a real thing?
So you've hit the nail on the head, Scott. So here we go then. So as I said earlier, fake alien abductions, it's not happening. There's a lot of covering ass going on about what is happening, and we're being lied to. And I did wonder for quite a while what was going on. I really did, because I was getting some very savage, mind-invasive stuff going on. It was quite unpleasant. And there's a modus operandi to it whereby you realise the tone to it, the flavour of it is not human. it's hard to explain. I couldn't begin to explain it, but I will just say this: the Nordics, as I say, they have judiciary, they have exploration command, defense command. This is what they've been telling me. That happened in 2014. I'll get into that, but you're talking about the Greys. I have never met such sinister, uncouth, nasty beings as them. I was absolutely flabbergasted. As a man who has suffered abuse, they just thought that they would do a bit more abuse, and that triggered a bizarre chain of events, Scott, actually. And it began, the Grey issue with me began when I was talking about a bizarre incident that happened to me with a Nordic triangle craft that I couldn't work out, but it appeared as if I had been wired into it in some way, and it appeared as if I had been communicating with its artificial intelligent element of the craft. This, it appears, among ET groups does not go down well. You couldn't make this up, Scott. Even I'm sat here now as I speak thinking, did this really happen? You couldn't make this up. It did happen. And I'm a man who's trying to come to terms with it, and I may go to the grave not knowing why anything's happened. You could even add a caveat that it could be the Russians, it could be the Americans, military, experimenting with high-end artificial reality technology in my mind. But as far as I'm concerned, when this incident happened with the Greys, it really did happen. And what will happen with them is that it's quite bizarre, but I think Whitley Strieber is quite correct when he wrote the book Communion, that they are seeking communion. I think it's quite correct that the Bible vectors towards them as demons, which they possibly are. The Collins elite, many people have heard of Majestic 12, but not a lot of people may have heard of the Collins elite. When they, and a guy called, who I highly recommend you have a look at, a guy called Pastor Ray Boesch, who was approached by the DIA. He was approached because the DIA in America thought that there was a demonic component to UFOs, which there was. There's a distinct possibility that the Greys may actually represent that, but you will never be able to fathom out what their agendas are or what they're up to. You just won't. So when this happened to me a few weeks ago, I would suggest that divine intervention intervened. And the bizarre thing was that I remember at a time last year, things were quite trying, actually. And I remember that there appeared to be some sort of presence of a Grey in this room. And the thing is that they speak uncouthly and they swear, and it's bizarre. And you hear humans swearing, but there's something so out of the ordinary of one of these Greys who's learned English. They've learned English, and it's kind of like what it is. The whole sense of reality around you is warped in their presence. It's as if time is bent. That is something that is not talked about on the internet when you come face to face with one of them. It's like the whole of reality is kind of like warped, and it's as if you're being pushed back in time by their very presence stood there. There's some time effects around them. Even Whitley Strieber doesn't mention that when he comes face to face with it. That seems to be the issue. But the Nordics, it appeared, there was, at the time when the incident happened, I felt I was being abducted, or there was an attempt. But the Nordics were here. They intervened. There was a presence in this room like you wouldn't believe. I would actually, I follow a faith, and I would suggest that it was the power of the Holy Spirit, the power of the Lord, whatever it was, Scott. It was one hell of a vibe. It was very loving, but very powerful. Now, the question with the Greys, therefore, is this presence that was all-knowing, all-powerful, compacting into this living room. Did the Grey want communion with it? Did the Grey want to speak to it? Was the Grey wanting a spiritual understanding to its existence, or was it blatant abduction? Was it blatant non-human violence towards a human being in the form of me? And that's the bit that I'm trying to understand and get my head around. But the Nordics, they clearly had intervened. There was clearly some big argument, clearly some argy-bargy between these groups about all this. And it does form what I believe is an alien Cold War. The Greys seem to be like a Russia. And the other aliens seem to be like a NATO, and there does seem to be a Cold War, although the aliens have told me it's not quite like that, but we're on the right track kind of thing. But the liaison with the Nordics happened in 2014, and I have to say, Scott, that they are as shifty and as secretive as human agencies. And this is the bit that people don't understand. They act like human intelligence agencies. They're secret. They will not tell you what you don't want to know. That's the reality of it. They will not tell you the full picture. There are contactees all across this world who are not getting the full picture from the ET as to what is going on either, which is as bad as our own agencies lying to us. That's the way it is, Scott. That's the way of the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
Yeah,
A lot of people say with the Greys that they're, you know, manipulating DNA, experimenting with DNA, maybe trying to do hybrid kind of things, maybe trying to save their race because they can't reproduce. And then they also talk a lot about experiencers say, and maybe it's not just with the Greys, but in general, the ETs are, you know, basically saying take care of your planet, you know, and your.
that's yeah.
You know?
That is true. If you listen to is it Richard Derlin? Richard
Yeah.
Derlin will say, "Oh yeah, contact experiences. They meet aliens, and the aliens go, oh yeah, we're in the 70s. Let's feel the love and prevent a nuclear war." Actually, oh my God, these aliens, Scott, they know about nuclear conflict. They know it's a very real issue. We are in 2014 when the Nordics first appeared. So if you imagine, Scott, that I've got lunatics stalking me. I don't know who they are, but they're human beings because for some reason I'm having liaison with UFOs, don't quite know why. And then on this particular morning in 2014, there's like this staggering vision presented to me of doomsday clocks. One says 5 to midnight, the other says 12:15. In the middle of that is this guy who is definitely Nordic, blonde hair, blue eyes. And the thing what is fascinating, Scott, about that incident, and it is in the public domain, and my narrative will not alter from it, he was speaking to someone like this. So imagine I'm the Nordic, he's going, he's got the mute on the mic. I can't hear what he's saying, but he's speaking to someone. Well, yes, of course he's speaking to someone because it's an intelligent network that he's speaking across. Now, in what time frame he is communicating to someone on Earth, I'm not sure. Was it in real time? Was he actually, is an element of our government in our point in history now actually liaising with them? Or was it further up history, human beings' timelines? I'm not sure. They will not let me have the full picture, and that's not a bad thing. You can know too much, you know. There must be reasons why they will not communicate the full picture, but they were real, and they broadcast this doomsday type warning. And at that time, Putin had moved into Ukraine in Donbass, I think, or Crimea at that time in 2014. It was gearing up, and I thought, oh wow, they're warning about this, and then it all backed off. But actually, the Nordics being the Nordics don't move by the rules of time. They perhaps weren't warning about that. They were warning about what's happening now. And that would make sense because the Nordics don't move by the rules of time from point A to B. Their technology is not like that. So they were warning about what is happening now. That's the situation. We're on the nuclear precipice due to a lunatic in the Kremlin. And what is even more disturbing, if I was to speak out about that, Scott, is that Mr. Putin, the leader of Russia, thinks what he's doing is perfectly sane. And that's very worrying. He thinks that these actions he's doing are somehow sane. And it's far from sane. And then when you look at the work of the Collins elite and the demonic elements of UFO, you would realize that a man could actually go around commanding military forces thinking he is sane but being manipulated by something else. Therefore, Scott, I have learned that we have one side controlling and two sides opposing each other. They appear to oppose each other, but they're on the same side. And this is what I've learned from my ET contact. And they're watching. They definitely are. Will it get to a level where intervention occurs so there isn't a nuclear war? Yes. I do believe that, actually. It's taken me a while to get there, but I do believe that intervention in ways that we do not understand as human beings is now going on to prevent a nuclear war on this planet. Because they've got bases here, the ET, a nuclear war would affect them as well. You know, and this is the thing. It is going on. I think there is a liaison going on at the moment. That seems to be the situation, yeah?
Yeah, that whole situation over there, I was saying as soon as Putin started lining up his troops along the border, I was like, he's going in. He's gonna go in.
Yeah.
And I was like, the way to prevent it now is just say, all right, Ukraine, you're not NATO. We won't make you NATO. We're backing off, right? Here, we'll, sign this here. We'll make a deal. Russia, they will not be NATO. So you don't have to worry about us getting closer to your territory. And it could have all been prevented. Instead, all we did was feed them money, feed Ukraine weapons.
Correct.
Which basically guarantees Russia attacking. So,
which is the idea, because we've got a finely tuned engine of chaos that appears to present to humanity opposing sides, good guys, bad guys. The guy in the Kremlin, he's a bad guy, and we're fighting for freedom. It's all rigged. It is no coincidence that the Z on the side of those vehicles is esoteric symbolism, the same as that it's that 1940s mindset of the swastika. Now it's a Z. The modus operandi is quite predictable. Humanity is being manipulated. What baffles the Nordics, from what I understand in my experiences, is how humanity allows, from Hitler to Napoleon to what we see now, how are they allowed to get into power and do that? And this is baffling to the aliens as it is to us humans, as to how this is allowed to happen on our Earth. And I say, there's been a couple of incidents where I've heard this Earth communicating. It's very complex psychic signaling, but I've heard it communicating like whale song. Sounds like whale song, Scott. It's like a great big trumpet sound, but it's like the sound of a whale, and it's communicating to a higher dimension, and it's in distress. And it's got to stop. And I don't know how far the Nordics, for example, will go with their intervention, but they are here. They're watching. I could sit here now, and it's like having an earpiece in your head. I could actually hear them. Bizarre. It's all bizarre, and I don't know what to make of it, Scott, you see, if I was to be honest. I've always been, I think, honest, just telling it like it is. In the hospital, for example, when I'm recovering from my operation, the Nordics appear again. And that was incredible. It was like watching a TV show, and there before me was this Nordic female who I call Isa in my book. It appears that she was part of the military. She had a military uniform on. It was like they were addressing a press conference, and they commented on some things that were going on in our world at the moment that they did not like at all. And then broke the news to me that I had a daughter to her, which was just incredible. And I am completely, Scott, when I recite all this to you, I feel out of my depth with it, but it's all in the book that I've written, which is similar to Tolkien meets The Matrix meets UFOs. At the moment, I'm tired of it, and I've been constantly tired of the lack of information. There's a lack of information. And when you read my book, you'll go, wow, but there is a lack of information from them as to what they're doing creeping around the skies. Here's an example, Scott. The other evening, I said this on my TikTok channel, Real Men in Black. Yeah. The other evening, here's an example, walking down the street to the Marine Lake to see if I could see a UFO. All of a sudden, a UFO turns up. It's a white ball of light. It's completely silent. We describe it as a UAP. It's there for about 15 minutes and then, it's there for about 15 seconds and then disappears. A bit later on, I'm sat there on the bench waiting for it to turn up so I can film it. But instead, another UFO turns up that's higher up, doesn't want to be filmed, and is kind of like hovering around. And you would think at first glance it's the same UFO that I first saw. It doesn't work like that. What you're looking at actually is a UFO, another UFO from another group turning up to see what I filmed, turning up to see what's going on, turning up to see what's on their patch, because ET control disclosure. They do, but they control how much humanity know about them. There is no getting away from this. And everybody has this fluffy new age view of them, and in real life it's not like that. So what you've got is actually, Scott, two opposing sides, a bit like your American Air Force over Alaska intercepting Russia. It's the same type of scenario that's going on. And this is happening in the skies above us. And it's happened repeatedly, which proves to me that there is some type of Cold War type conflict among these ETs with humanity in the middle of it. And it's worrying, to say the least. It really is. And they appear to be not so much in conflict with each other militarily, but it's not pleasant between them. They are, and I think the Greys have something to do with that. I really do. This is what I've witnessed. I'm hopefully going to gear up to film something pretty good. I really need to film some real good footage of a UFO, you know. But that currently is where it's at the moment. And recently, over this past year, I've just been through hell with it, to be quite frank. Some of it I can't talk about, where you are literally, as a contact experiencer, for example, as Billy Meyer, as Adamski, they were contact experiencers, but they were never targeted like I was or am, you know, with all this. And there's that elusiveness with it, Scott, you know, that kind of, you just don't know what's happening. They're not giving the full information as to what they're doing, you know. For example, my daughter, I know, you know, this, I don't know how it's happened, but they're saying that it has happened. She'll be about 25 now. She's not, I've no idea how it's happened, but it has. And sometimes I will walk down the street and I'll have flashbacks to it. And I'll have flashbacks to the fact that I'm a father. When a girl walks past me that's probably about her age with blonde hair and blue eyes, I have these flashbacks. So you can see that we've also got screen memories going on, where the contact experiencer isn't given the full picture. It's lousy. It's not any new age fluffy spirituality, Scott. It can be quite brutal in terms of the psyche and in terms of the way aliens go about their business, as if giving a lack of disregard to the contact experiencer. It's not fluffy. You know, I'm running out of things to say, mate, but I'm sounding off, you know. I'm as real as it gets. I try and be as real as it gets. Yeah, yeah.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Good.
What? Okay, I've seen so many UFOs, most of which were, you know, I discount. Like, you know, it was only like a second and a half. I saw something. I thought I saw it, but then it was gone. So I'd be like, okay, I don't count that one. But I've had like 3, maybe, I always lose count, 3 to 4 very close proximity sightings of craft, where I could have hit it with a rock. And I have no, you know, memories of any abductions or seeing any beings or anything like that. No, and I always wonder, like, what's wrong with me? Why won't they take me? You know, like, are they not interested in me? Or maybe they already took me and put me back, and like instantaneously, and I never even knew it. Actually, last night I had a sighting. It was almost midnight. I was sitting, was being really bad. I'm sitting, it's like 11, well, I wrote it down, 11:48. So it's almost midnight. Sitting down in the living room with, hopefully my wife doesn't watch this, with a bag of chocolate chips, eating one at a time.
Oh, mate. Oh, you're in the doghouse, son.
Just being bad, you know, my cheating on my diet or whatever. So I'm just looking out the window, and you know, I probably was there for 5 minutes, you know, and it was pretty cloudy. All of a sudden, this thing appears. Terrible drawer, but like this thing appears.
Right.
And these are lights.
Yeah.
And this is like a dark part of the craft.
Yeah.
And that's another light. And that's pretty. It was there.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking. All of a sudden, I see it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I actually see that. That's actually there. I go to reach for my phone, and it just goes straight up.
Yeah.
So it just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then goes straight up.
Yeah. If they wanted to invade, I mean, actually, Scott, another thing I wanted to talk about. You really have given a good prompt there. You know, if they wanted to invade us, they would.
Yeah.
During the Nimitz carrier incident, I can assure you, if that TikTok craft wanted to go offensive on that carrier, that aircraft carrier would have had no electric. It would have just been like a piece of junk floating in the water, incapacitated. But they're not doing that. That's not what they're about, because they're clever, they're smart, they're advanced, you see. And so this brings us to Project Bluebeam, you know, and the fact that you will read online about the fact that we're going to be invaded by aliens, the alien threat. What a load of bullshit. And the bullshit is to cover ass of what's really going on, which is a disgrace at international diplomacy and galactic levels. It's a disgrace, yeah. But anyway, Project Bluebeam, invading aliens. I can assure you that there are strength in numbers among these advanced civilizations. It would be impossible for an alien group to invade humanity without the other groups not seeing it. It's just impossible. It can't happen, and it won't happen, because behind the scenes there are mysterious technological liaisons going on with the United States government. And I'm not sure whether they're bound by the rules of time. So therefore, Scott, that liaison may not happen now, but you're talking something like 2150, 2230, where that liaison actually happens, yeah? Where the government of me, the people, is routinely liaising with them. So it's not governed by the rules of time. But I do believe it would be impossible to pull off. If you are going to be invaded by aliens, then you're going to have scenarios like a world leader who thinks he's doing things that are sane when clearly they're insane, and they wouldn't know they're under any form of influence because it's like electricity and you can't see it. In fact, the Russian Paranormal Warfare Unit, the Special Abilities Unit 10,003, the American DIA called the Collins Elite, they studied the work of physicist David Bohm. You know, you got glycerine, Scott, in a tube full of water, and you turn it you color it, you can turn it one way and it disappears, turn it the other way, it comes back again, the colors in the tube, to use that principle, all indicating that there is a reality outside of us that we do not see. So if you are an invading extraterrestrial force, it wouldn't be like laser beams down the street invading like War of the Worlds. It's more subtle, it's more insipid, and that's when you probably get into the areas of having a psychic war. And, you know, it's interesting, back in the UK in the 40s, there was a lady called Dion Fortune who did something called the Psychic Battle of Britain. And in the forest, in Epping Forest, they were doing rituals of all kinds of things to prevent Hitler from invading the UK. And according to Dion in her book, the Psychic Battle of Britain, these rituals were kind of like giving these entities that they were manifesting lives of their own. Igoris, is it pronounced thought forms? Igor thought forms, where the thought forms take it out. EGORES, if you look it up, it's kind of like thought forms that have their own reality. The rituals that Dion Fortune were doing were that powerful that these protective thought forms had their own reality, you see. And so there was the Psychic Battle of Britain. And many of the superpowers, etc., do have these psychic war things going on, you see. So we can see that, as I say, any invading alien force, you wouldn't see them. It would be a lot more insipid than that. People would be wandering around thinking they were sane and doing things that were quite insane. And that would be how it would be done. But you couldn't take over our world as an alien group, because you would be seen by, let us say, a galactic NATO, let us say, you know, a galactic council. It just could not be allowed to happen. So once again, Scott, we see Project Bluebeam, more alien fear porn. That is not to say, Scott, I think, in my opinion, that our elements of our government can go around with their eyes closed thinking that ET is all fluffy and nice. I mean, it don't work like that in real life. You only need to ask some of the ET groups out there. They will tell you it is an uncertain universe. It's vast. It's like a jungle. That's why they have offensive military capability. Rare that they use them, but they need them just in case, because it is an uncertain universe, you see. So there you go.
Wow. Yeah, you can't travel the universe without being able to defend yourself.
No.
Luis Elizondo, the To the Stars Academy, you know, he's really making the rounds, Luis Elizondo.
Yeah.
And he the latest thing he was talking about was pilots that were in close proximity of some of these crafts have physical after effects. Did you see that on Fox?
Yes, I have seen that. I have seen something like that. How do we know, Scott, that the physical after effects are due to a liaison with ETs that have back-engineered military technology?
Right.
That's paradox of that.
That's where I want to go with it, because I've been close to these craft and I'm okay. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Of
Exactly.
course, I'm not chasing them in a jet
No.
fighter,
No.
so maybe
No.
they're a little,
No.
maybe defending themselves,
Yeah.
but I don't think they'd have to do that. In my opinion, one one saucer could probably take out our whole military within
They
about.
are very, yeah, they're very powerful offensive capabilities. The Nordics, for example, their craft are artificially intelligent. I think any government would love to get their hands on one of them. But the Nordic, as I say, they have a command structure like the US military. They have a defense command, an exploration command. This is what I've been told. You couldn't make that up, Scott. You see, the word exploration command is not a figment of my imagination. This is what's happened with liaison with them, and so therefore their weapon systems, they don't appear to be offensive. They appear to be more peacekeepers than offensive operators in any way, shape, or form. And the thing is with this is that we're not clear. Dr. Greer is actually close to the mark, love him or hate him, with what he's saying. There are evolved extraterrestrial civilizations out there. There has been a cover-up, and Mr. Luis Elizondo is probably following orders, except what orders is he following? And for what security reasons is he covering it up? Because he doesn't actually know. He really doesn't know why he's covering up what he's covering up. He just knows they're a threat. It would be better if he actually had a face-to-face liaison with, let us say, the lady from Arcturus. But then, in terms of his perception, that's just New Age guff. But it isn't. There's actually in the skies above actual liaison going on, actual interaction going on. It wouldn't surprise me, Scott, if members of the US military have actually had liaison with them, but are keeping it quiet. They actually do know what's going on, but they're keeping that bit very, very quiet, you see. And so it goes on. And as you say, with Lou Elizondo and some of these big names, you can hear them, and it's just not good. It's just not good at all. So to hear this polished narrative of them being a threat and this and that and the other, when the truth of the matter is, tell you what the truth of the matter is, Scott. I've said this in public and I'll simplify it again. Truth of the matter is, ET turns up on the US government doorstep and says, you can have this UFO for free. It's absolutely fantastic technology. And all we ask is that you don't look at what we do, but have this UFO. And the US government think they're on a good thing. And I think the aliens say, we're going to move in down the street. You can have this UFO. It's a lovely toy. You keep it forever. We're just going to move in down the road in this new house. Please take no notice of us. And then next minute, Scott, you've got other people turning up in the form of other aliens going, excuse me, can you turn the noise down? Those people down the road, they're really annoying. They're fly dumping. They're making loud music. They're having parties, and we don't like that. And that sums up in a basic kindergarten level what's actually going on. And where the US government has gone wrong with their UFO stuff. It went wrong after Roswell. But that's, I think, roughly, and I don't wish to patronize your viewers in any way, but I think it sums up what the current situation is. And they've gone down this route. And as I say, the military out there just not got quite a clue as to what's going on in the skies above them. I know, Scott, I've been subjected to some very bizarre goings on where I think I've had what I suspect is my own country's military taking the piss and trying to understand what's going on and thinking it's all one big joke when it isn't. Because you only need, as I say, one of these UFOs to come in over this lake with the lights ablaze and get a good shot of it, and I've got the elephant in the room. My liaison with them is genuine for reasons I don't understand. So with Lou Elizondo, it's all very polished and all very slick. And then on the opposite side, you've got Dr. Greer, who tells us that aliens are all nice, abductions don't happen, and in fact, abductions are nothing to do with the demonic. The demonic is a very real force in our world. Oh my, it's a very real force. The Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, all vector to the fact that there is that reality, and it's real, and it is. And you've got to treat it with respect. I know I had a couple of incidents happen to me, which I can get into, Scott, which would indicate that, you see. Yeah, so that's what happened back in the time when I was beginning to understand what was going on around me with them,
Yeah. As far as Luis Elizondo and the threat, I think it's just a money grab. I think it's trying to get more funding for whatever department, Luis Elizondo, retired CIA. What's the saying? Once CIA, always CIA. So
Who is that? Sorry, Scott.
Say again.
Who was the CIA guy? Did you mention?
Luis Elizondo.
Oh, Louis, yeah, DIA, isn't he? Yeah. Absolutely, yeah,
He
yeah.
was CIA, so in my eyes, he's still CIA. So
Hmm.
what's the CIA's angle here? Are they just trying to get money? That's what it looks like to me.
Well, no, they don't know. They don't know what
They're
their angle is, do they? They literally don't know why they're covering up what they're covering up. They don't get it. They don't understand it. But it's certainly acceptable to have mass graves in Ukraine. It's acceptable to have conflict, but it's not acceptable to understand the mechanisms of what led to conflict, which aren't human at some level. You know, the Bible, for example, the Gita, all point towards us keeping away from occult practices. I mean, there's something in the Gita, the cities in the Gita, I think it is, who talk about insanity. You can go insane with it because it points to a reality that we don't see. And that's the invasion point. That's the alien invasion point there. That's the flashpoint that people don't get. We only need to see what's going on with the guy in the Kremlin at the moment who's wandering around thinking what he's doing is perfectly sane. Very dangerous, very. And that's where your threat comes in. But not one of them, from Elizondo to Christopher Mellon, has voiced that opinion. Not one of them. They haven't said that, and they haven't gone into the other bit as well, which Greer has actually, quite bravely, about the corruption in the unacknowledged special access projects that goes on. And Greer's voiced that, and I agree with him totally. It is, but good old Lou, he covers ass. He doesn't want that. He spoke at a conference. No, I've never met Lou Elizondo. He sounds a very nice guy, but he spoke at this UFON conference, and the MUFON people just stood up and said, "Well, you've just given us a watch and told us what the time is. There's nothing new coming from you. Why did you even stand up and talk?" You know, and that's the thing. And yet, in the skies above, there's this extraordinary liaison going on to which some of us are caught in the middle of, and we do not know why, Scott. I'm hoping there's more than one of me, but at the moment, it's a very lonely place to be, and it's trying to be heard as well. You're drowned out with these big names. I mean, luckily for me in the UK, I've appeared on something called This Morning, a big TV show here in the UK, and in a way, I'm lucky. I am heard, but the big guys, they like to. Whitley Strieber, for example, completely ignores me. Linda Moulton Howe ignores me. I've no doubt Luis Elizondo, because they think I'm a crank. They'll probably think I'm a crank and none of this is going on, and it is going on. I know I've had it all my life, and I could go to my grave, Scott, not knowing the full reasons why what happened to me happened. You see, that's the thing. That's the situation.
It almost reminds me of what, like the whole big picture, Earth as a whole. It almost reminds me of like a country that's neutral, okay? And you got like the two forces, say like America and Russia,
Isn't it true?
and they're both operating in that area. They both want that area,
Yeah.
but they're not going to fight over the area, but they intertwine with each other's communications and
Yeah.
get in each other's way from time to time. It
Yeah.
almost kind of reminds me of something like that. And you say like the Nordics, very
Yeah.
kind of military,
Yeah.
dress and
You won't want to. You won't want to mess with them, matey. There's something very American about them. That's there is. There is that they do have a military, and you don't know for what precise reasons they use their military, but they're very intelligent people. I'm sure. I'm sure they don't go invading places and creating conflicts. But there must be a reason why they have that. They are quite a spiritually advanced kind of civilization. They mirror humanity very closely, and they have technology that's probably very advanced as well. Some contact experiences, Scott, which I find fascinating, have indicated that they've been subjected to Nordic technology as if teenage boys have got hold of it, and they've been actually larking around with it. Strange but true. Some, contact experiences have voiced that opinion. There's some going on in Sweden as well. There's been quite a few contact experiences who had liaison with the Nordics. The question is, I think the question is, it's what they don't say rather than what they do say when they're out there dealing with all this. But they do have bases here. I've lost my train of thought now, Scott. I've lost my train of thought as to what I was going to say. It was Nordic.
Yeah, we're just talking about the two like superpowers, kind of treating
Thank you.
Earth
Right,
as a
yeah.
as a country. You know, it's just
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really
Yeah, that leads me to this crucial point. I
yeah.
think in the course of my experiences, Scott, and I have to be careful what I say here. You know, we've looked at the books to do with aliens and UFOs. I'm going to come out with something that's very taboo. In fact, I understand it's very secretive as well. And I didn't know this. You may have seen the thing on Netflix, A Man in the High Castle. Have you seen that at all? Yes, you have, where Germany won the war.
I've not watched it. My wife watched it. I watched. I know the preface of it though.
Okay, well, what is absolutely fascinating with me and my experiences, and I had 40 years of it, is that I can handle UFOs and aliens. I can actually handle that. What I couldn't handle was parallel universe. And that really shocked me. And there was a very bizarre incident that happened to me about 2 years ago where I was asleep and I appeared lost in my old housing estate in Yorkshire. And where this housing estate was, where my house was now a butcher's shop and a clothes shop, and it was all very bizarre, and I was completely lost. A woman approaches me on a bicycle and says, I say, excuse me, I'm lost. This is Sandhill Terrace, is it not? And she said to me, you are in the year 1997. You are in Oxford in a parallel universe. We have had a similar pandemic to you, but we've managed to get our heads around dealing with that. And so this mysterious liaison, Scott, began of what is termed by the ETs humans in the parallel. And it's not written anywhere. It's not in any esoteric literature. The aliens routinely know this. And that's as far as I can go with it, because I don't want to go any further with it. But the reality of it is there. And there's been some fascinating data from it. How can I put it? For example, it's just incredible. But for example, there's certain locations. Let's say, for example, London. The city of London is known in their universe as, let us say, the city of Saint Angela. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's kind of like parallel universe liaison going on. And for some reason, our conflicts and our nuclear conflicts, for some reason, affect them. And I understand, and this is as far as I can go with it, that it technically, they are classed as aliens on another planet, even though they look like us. Technically, they were saying. And that, for me, is one of the most fascinating things. I mean, I've seen the Nordics, I've had these, but that, I cannot get my head around it. That the reality of it, the reality of that, Scott, I can't get my head around that one. Just can't get my head around it. She actually spoke to me, did that woman.
Humans in the parallel. Humans in the parallel.
Yeah, humans in the parallel.
I have never heard anything like that.
Nope.
That is so wild.
Isn't it? I haven't heard it, but the ET refer to them as humans in the parallel. The ESCOVS communication network that I talk about in my book, Our Earth Human in This Historic Timeline, also call them humans in the parallel, and an active liaison with the humans in the parallel. They are called humans in the parallel, and that's as far as I know. And as I say, Scott, you're probably the first to hear that term. I've not come out with that term anywhere in the public domain. The term is not something I've made up, it's something I was taught. And for some reason, they're all there, they're advanced, and it's weird. I tell you what, it's in the public domain. The weirdest thing of all that they found weird was that they said during the course of this experience that they have an invisible barrier between our reality and their reality, and they do not know how it got there, but it's the equivalent of the Iron Curtain separating East Germany and West Germany, and separating our reality from theirs, and they do not know who put it there. So humans in the parallel, and they called it the Iron Curtain, the barrier between their reality and our reality. I've not spoken about that anywhere else, Scott. I've learnt it from them. I haven't made it up. That's what they're saying. And I daren't go any further with it. I just dare not go any further or talk about it anymore. But the term for them, so you've got aliens, ETs, the Nordics of Andromeda, and the humans in the parallel. And there's a possibility that the humans in the parallel are liaising with the Nordics, and there's also a possibility that the humans in the parallel are being subjected to abduction making it a crime. That is fucking wild. But it's kind of like, from my assessment, what I've seen of it all. And then the question arises, Scott, why? Why am I having these experiences? What the hell is going on to have them? And that is what, I'll be honest with your viewers, is actually eluding me. It really is. But these guys in the parallel are really worried about where our Earth is going and conflict. And they must have had conflicts that are similar to us, but they're worried. Because, as I say, they're technically classed as an alien civilization. They're technically classed as that, from what they said in the briefest of liaisons I have had with them. And that's the first time I've ever shared that in an interview, mate. First time.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for that exclusive.
Humans in the parallel.
When we started testing the atomic bombs, I wonder, a lot of people say, well, that's what brought, the UFOs in, because we started, blasting away, and maybe we affected some kind of parallel world or whatever.
No, they were already here, Scott. They've been here centuries. For example, the Nordics. I mean, for example, I understand. Now, I've not seen the information, but I understand, for example, in China, in the universities in China, it's considered normal academic kind of discourse that the Nordics were in China, that they were routinely building bases there, blonde-haired, blue-eyed. The Zulu civilization also comments on the Nordics. There is rumor that they were in Ireland. They're here. They have been here for centuries. So the fact that the narrative of, well, radar maybe affected their world, these aliens have been around us for a very long time. The interesting thing, though, is when you look at the carvings, for example, in the caves, Scott, thinking aloud, and you see these astronauts that look like us. Are they humans from the parallel? Are they actually visiting us, early time travel? And this is the thing. And my life, my experiences have never been the same again since I knew this knowledge. And I don't go any further with it. And luckily for me, they're the only things I've really been told that I actually don't want to know anymore, because I think knowledge is a dangerous thing. And I think there may be times when you really shouldn't be knowing things because of where it might lead you. You don't know what forces are out there that are watching. So it's best left alone. But I still can't get my head around it. I just can't. What did they say, the Prime Minister? Our Prime Minister's called Boris Johnson. Their Prime Minister was called Johnson, but the first name was different. It all mirrored. And it would make perfect sense that they were back in time. They were in 97 and I'm in 2021. That makes sense with the recent discoveries NASA have found of a parallel universe that's in reverse. Up in Antarctica, they were doing neutrino experiments and discovering that for some reason there was some time delay, things were in reverse. There's a possibility that the parallel universe was running reverse time. So when she said she was in that year 97, that would make sense, that they were back in time would actually make sense. And I think that is to do as well. We are advanced biological signal processors. And I think the incident came about because of the mega incident I had in this room with the feel the love type vibe going on, and what felt like the whole bloody cosmos manifesting in this room. It would have radiated harmonics here, there, and everywhere. It would have been picked up by any civilization who had the signaling technology to hear it. And I think that's probably the case, But yeah, that's the first time I've really talked about it, Scott, and come out with that term, humans in the parallel. I just find it mind-blowing, mate. More mind-blowing than the aliens. I just do, And the other thing as well is just...
It really is more, when you think about it, I could see, like say us in, 500 years making it to some distant star and landing and being like, oh, this is cool. Look at these people, they're, still running on diesel or whatever, we'll just hide in the sky, put on our cloaking technology, they'll never know we're here.
I can't get my head around this, Scott. Now, I'm a Yorkshireman, I'm an Englishman. I tell it like it is. And I can't get my head around what they told me about my book. I just can't get my head around it. And I don't know whether they've made it up but they told me that in their universe, my book is called Return to the Twilight. Oh. In this universe, it's called I, Alien. Here's a fascinating thing for your viewers, and I find this even more amazing. Many years ago, a few years back, a guy's walking down the beach with his dog. A guy approaches him and says, "Hello, I'm from a parallel universe. Did you know that the Beatles never split up?" And he gave him this tape, which is called Altered Chemistry, and is meant to be the music from a parallel universe that the Beatles had created. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of that, yes.
What is fascinating is the comments from the sound recording engineers who cannot get their head around the fact that it's not a load of tracks mixed together. They know from their know-how that it's all separate tracks in a recording studio, and they can't get their heads around it. They just cannot get their heads around that bit. And that's what's fascinating. So there's evidence to suggest, with the Beatles, that there's like a parallel universe. The music is quite amazing, and the sound engineers cannot get their head around this. So there's evidence to suggest that there are hints of a parallel universe around us, but nowhere, Scott, in esoteric literature, in the mystery schools, not once is it mentioned. Nowhere. Isn't that incredible? And the fact that, as I say, they had this barrier between us that they referred to as like a Berlin Wall, and it's the mystery of who put it there. It's like one of their 7 wonders of the world mysteries. I just find it incredible. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sounds like divine intervention to me. Like, like
Yeah.
you were talking about, you probably saw
Yeah.
an angel or maybe even God
Yeah.
himself,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would think something like that would have to have some kind of order over the parallel, keep everything separate,
Yeah, there are strict protocols involved, so there's only so much that I can talk about with it. A lot of it is secret, and for right reasons, because you don't know, Scott, how you can affect reality when you've got all that going on around you. Sometimes it's best not doing anything, and my faith in God has increased tenfold due to these incidents. I have a very strong religious faith, because you can be driven, and I have been driven, absolutely barking mad by continual exposure to this paranormal environment. It ain't natural and it ain't good. And as Lynn Buchanan said, who was involved with America's remote viewing program, as he said to me, with ability comes responsibility, and the responsibility is absolutely massive, when dealing with all this. The data is still flowing from these ETs. I have reason to suspect, Scott, that they're going to, as I said, they're going to come in and we're going to film something. I've just reason to suspect that might happen. But once again, throughout this narrative, this drip of information, this shadiness of secrecy among them, where nobody really knows the full picture, from Elizondo to Greer to myself to Stryber to even your good self who's had these experiences. Nobody is getting a full picture. I've just explained to you about humans in the parallel. We all go, wow, ain't that amazing? But even they are not fully saying why, what, when. There's secrecy everywhere with it. It's mind-blowing. I could see myself in a few years' time completely walking away from it once my book's written and retiring, because you get to a stage where you're completely out of your depth with it. You really do. But I soldier on. Book's coming out soon, Scott, hopefully May, June time. And it really is one hell of a read with art. There's about 97 illustrations in it that trying to express what I'd witnessed, and there've been various military style incidents as well. In one of the books, in one of the chapters, I write in my journal something known as a hyperspatial cannon incident, whereby I believe something happened where I was being attacked. It was bizarre, by one of these ET groups, and somebody was firing a cannon at them. It was like something out of a movie. I can't even put it into words, and even then I've not really explained it correctly. But you're talking, it's as if they were using your mind as a gateway to, like a radar system, to see what was going on, and using a weapon system to fire through it. Now, by saying that remark, I've maybe given somebody an idea in the future to do that, and hence the event happening. You get the paradox?
Yeah.
So I've just created my own paradox. There's a possibility now, after just saying that I've created the reality for it to happen now in 2022. Further in the future, the idea's in their head and they suss it out. And I've created my own paradox. I've written the future just then in that remark, which is why it happened. Perhaps had I not mentioned it at any point, it would not have happened. But it did happen, because the incident happened in about 97. There was all kinds of stuff going on in 97 and 98 before I'd even done the journals that I couldn't understand, Scott. Well, that's because they'd seen my future. The book was written before I'd even written it. The people who were doing this knew about it before I did, and that was one of the paradoxes as well. So I've written a book before I even knew I had, and all the recoil and paranormal incidents were connected with it, even though I didn't even know I was going to write it, you see. And that appears to be another strange paradox. It's the first time ever, Scott, in any interview I've done, that I've commented on all this with some clarity, actually, as to my understanding of it, you know, because I've been all over the place trying to get it together before now, you see. So there you go.
Excellent. Yeah. I've watched a few of your interviews and they're fascinating. I was like, man, I gotta have this guy in the show. And I was I was online trying to find your book like before I knew it wasn't out yet. I'm like, I gotta buy it. I'm gonna buy it. I'm buying Alien, you know, right now. And it was like, oh, it's not out yet, you know. Okay.
No. I'll send you, I mean, I'm very lucky to have raised the money to get it all self-published. I'll send you a complimentary copy, Scott. But yeah, I mean, we've covered a lot of ground, and I've in a way communicated with some clarity experiences that I haven't been able to communicate with clarity before with you, you know. So it's been great. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
Would you, it'll be broadcast, matey, this then, do you know?
Yeah, this will be up in a couple days.
Wonderful.
Let me close us out here, and then we'll talk just a second. Well, Tony, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your experiences. They were awesome.
Thank you.
I know it's hard to do. I do it myself. I talk about my experiences. It's never easy, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
You will stay in touch and don't go away, because I'm going to end the show now. And everyone else, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back soon with our next show. So thank you, everyone. Talk soon.